It started with a whisper in Washington, none-confirmed leaks, anonymous sources, and a few late-night texts between journalists. But by morning, everything changed. Jasmine Crockett stood at the podium with fire in her eyes and a folder in her hand, the room buzzing with anticipation. She didn't wait for introductions. "This nation," she began, "has been lied to, manipulated, and dragged through the mud by a man who believes he is untouchable. Today I'm drawing a line in the sand." The room froze. The folder she held wasn't just paper. It was a declaration of war, backed by evidence that would shake the foundations of power. "Election integrity is not a partisan talking point, it's the backbone of democracy," Crockett said, her voice like steel. She snapped the folder open and pulled out a packet marked confidential. Cameras zoomed in, reporters leaned forward. It was a digital forensics report, metadata, server records, phone logs, and payments all linked to efforts to manipulate voter rolls in key swing states. At the top of the report, in bold, was a name, Donald J. Trump for President, Inc. Her voice didn't waver. He wasn't just involved, he orchestrated it. The shock in the room was electric. Crockett laid out the timeline like a prosecutor. In court, one by one, she revealed how fake electors were positioned, how precinct data had been accessed illegally, and how payments from PACs tied to Trump's allies had mysteriously vanished after being funneled through shell companies. "This wasn't a one-time misjudgment," she said. "It was a multi-state operation with the explicit goal of erasing your vote." She held up signed affidavits from whistleblowers, IT consultants, campaign staffers, even a former Trump strategist who turned state's evidence. The evidence was overwhelming. Then she paused, locking eyes with the camera. "To Mr. Trump, you've spent years mocking the law, laughing in its face, daring it to hold you accountable. Well, I'm not here for games. I'm here to finish. What January 6th started to make sure your lies die under the weight of the truth?" A murmur swept across the room. Trump's team immediately pushed out a frantic press release calling it another witch hunt. But even his most loyal supporters were quiet. The data was too precise, the timeline too airtight, the whistleblowers too credible. Crockett then did the unthinkable. She played a recording and internal campaign call from 2020. Trump's voice, unmistakable, could be heard saying, "We don't need to win clean. We just need the map to look right." The room erupted. Gasps, shouts, reporters scrambling to upload clips. The audio had never been heard before, even hardened political. Veterans looked stunned. Crockett waited, then spoke into the mic with icy clarity. "If this is what he said behind closed doors, imagine what he's still hiding." Twitter exploded. Hashtag Trump fraud and hashtag Crockett war trended within minutes. Outside the Capitol, protesters had already begun to gather. Crowds of supporters, survivors of voter suppression, and everyday Americans chanted her name. Crockett stepped outside briefly to address them. "This isn't just about Trump," she said. "This is about every voice that was silenced, every ballot that was buried, and every truth that was twisted to keep one man in power. We're done being silent. We're done being polite." The crowd roared. It wasn't a speech, it was a battle cry. Inside, Republicans scrambled. Congressional allies of Trump tried to force a recess. One shouted, "This is political theater." Crockett didn't blink. She slammed her folder on the desk. "This is justice. Hey, and if you can't handle the truth, you're part of the cover-up." Her words went viral before she even sat down. A clip of that exact moment hit 5 million views in an hour. Media outlets around the world broke into coverage, calling it the political moment of the decade. In private, Trump was reportedly furious basing Mar-a-Lago, yelling at aides, threatening legal action. But the legal dominoes had already begun to fall. Special prosecutors requested the full evidence. The DOJ confirmed it would launch a separate probe based on Crockett's release. Multiple state election boards issued statements acknowledging credible new evidence. Within 24 hours, subpoenas flew. Crockett had done in one speech what years of investigations had failed to achieve. She cracked the narrative wide open. And still, she wasn't done. She concluded her floor time with a final message. To every American watching this, democracy only survives when people stand up. So today I stand. Against lies, against fear, against the machine that protects fraud in a suit and tie. She dropped the mic literally. The chamber was silent. It was the silence of truth echoing off marble walls, of power being reminded that it is not above accountability. The silence before a storm. That night, Jasmine Crockett trended in over 20 countries. Editorials hailed her courage. Commentators called it a turning point in the war on disinformation. And in homes across America, ordinary citizens sat up straighter, realizing they had just witnessed something rare, a leader with backbone, fire, and facts. Crockett didn't just call out corruption, she ripped the mask off it. And now, with the world watching and the truth out in the open, there was no going back. Not for Trump. Not for America. The war for democracy had a new general, and her name was Jasmine Crockett.